Just Joe here, and I've got too many boobies. Alright, too many movies, take two. Just Joe here, and I've got too many doobies. Too many movies, take three. Just Joe here, and I've got too many rubies. What the hell? Too many movies, take 12. Just Joe here, and I've got too many movies. Too many movies, take 25. Just Joe here, and I've got too many movies. Too many movies. Too many movies. Okay. Just Joe here, and I've got too many movies. That's not even a word. Too many movies, take 60. Just Joe here, and I've got too many movies. Thank God. Maybe I should watch one. It's Friday once again, bitches, which means I'm gonna grab another DVD or Blu-ray from my fabulous movie collection to watch a movie that I have not seen before. And since we are in the middle of Spielberg Month... Okay, sorry, I thought we were gonna have like a little video package or something, but I guess, well, I'm the one who would do it, and I'm lazy. So that was awkward. And last week I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I think surprised a lot of people that I had never seen that all the way through. Next up is going to be another one that I'm sure, hell, all 4 movies this month are going to surprise everyone that I, such a movie connoisseur and such a movie snob, have not seen 4 of Steven Spielberg's so-called best films. And this next one is probably going to surprise a lot of people. It's from 1975. It's the movie that really put Steven Spielberg on the map as, you know, a guy who could go down as one of the greatest directors of all time if he kept doing work like this. It basically invented the summer blockbuster. You all know what I'm talking about, but the movie that I'm referring to is... Jaws. That's right, kiddies. I have never seen Jaws. I know about the scenes, I know about the moments, I know about the troubled production that it went through, and it basically about made Steven Spielberg pull his hair out. It seems like all the best movies have really bad production stories, and Jaws is no exception. It was a total nightmare, and yet through that nightmare came a blessing. Jaws, one of the highest grossing movies of all time. I think it was the highest grossing movie until Star Wars, and then E.T. overtook that. I think George Lucas and Steven Spielberg kind of had a little competition going, but Jaws is still considered one of the greatest movies ever made, one of the greatest thrillers. It's, you know, considered one of the best. But am I going to think so? This movie has been built up a lot over the years, as most movies are. This one is no exception. So, Mr. Spielberg, hopefully you impress me once again, just like you did with Raiders of the Lost Ark. But this is Jaws. I'm just Joe. I'm gonna watch Jaws because I'm just Joe, and that's a mouthful, and I'm not gonna try that again. So, bye. Okay. As you can see, I was careful in the chair because last week, well, I'll show you. Okay. Woo. Oh boy. So excited I broke my chair a little bit. Yeah. And chairs are expensive, so I'm gonna be a little bit careful. But anyway, I just got done watching Jaws for the very first time. Jaws. I watched it. Now, did it live up to the hype? Yeah, it did. It really did. It's a phenomenal movie, and it should be considered one of the greatest movies of all time, and probably one of Spielberg's best. I've got a lot to say about it, so as always, let's start with the plot/the script. Okay, the movie starts off, the infamous scene that we all know, even if you've never seen the movie, with the girl with the drunk bunch of college kids, you know, she goes out swimming, naked. Sorry. But she goes out in the water, her dumbass boyfriend basically passes out, you gotta naked girl in the water waiting for you, but you're gonna pass out if you drank too much, dumbass. But she gets pulled under by something that we can't see. It is, of course, the shark that is now referred to as Jaws, even though they never refer to the damn thing as Jaws, but fuck it, the shark's name is Jaws. So the new sheriff in town, who's from New York, Brody, which I don't know why that was written in, that him and his family are from New York, and they moved to this little sea town. I don't understand why that was a part of it. I guess just because... No, I have no fucking idea. It's not important, but it's weird. Why does it matter if he's from New York and his family moved there and he's not actually from this place, but yet he knows all about it? It didn't make any sense to me. But regardless, they find the remains of the girl, and he thinks it's a shark attack. He wants to close the beaches, and the town's moronic mayor refuses because they have like their 4th of July celebration coming up. It's their biggest time of year, it's their biggest money maker, but then someone else gets eaten by the shark and it gets killed. And you know, this keeps happening, and the mayor still won't admit that there's a damn problem. Why is there always that one moron that keeps the good guys from doing their job? Oh yeah, because if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have a movie. So, coffee. But anyway, Richard Dreyfuss comes in. He's a guy from a rich family, but he loves sharks. He loves learning about them and studying them, and he finds out about what's going on there. And he works for some kind of institute, and he's there to help out Brody. And eventually they also get the services of this really kind of crazy sea guy. I don't remember his name, but the three of them eventually go out on the water and to hunt this shark, to capture it, to kill it, to try to stop this madness from happening. And that is basically the plot of Jaws. And it may not sound like much, and it's about a 2-hour movie, and the first hour is really all build-up. It's the people getting eaten, and the mayor being a dumbass, and introducing the characters, and I had heard that the first half is the build-up, the second half, which it is the shark hunt. And yes, the second half is the more exciting, but the first half is actually paced very well, and the dialogue is well, and it's not exposition heavy. You find out about these characters in very little subtle ways. They don't just come out and say it's Chief Brody, you know, Chief of Police. You know, you see that on the side of his car, it says police. And then his wife says hey chief, just in a lovingly manner. It introduces, you know, that they have kids. It just, for all the characters, you know, it's not really exposition heavy. And the dialogue is well written. I know it was based off of a book. The first hour was completely original for the movie, and the second hour is really from the book. That's the part that Steven Spielberg fell in love with. And I don't blame him, because that part is so well done. And very little has to do with the writing when it comes to the second half. The first half is really where the writing is showcased, where all the dialogue and the build-up and everything else. The script was well put together, well paced. But for the second half, that has to do more with some other stuff that I'll get to later. But the script, I thought, was very well put together. But yeah, that's the plot of Jaws, and the script was well put together, especially in the first half with all the dialogue. The second half, you know, relied a lot more on some other things, except for one scene where the really kind of crazy sea guy, who's a drunk, played by an actor who unfortunately was a real alcoholic, that scene, the dialogue, from what I heard, a lot of it was improvised. I'm not sure if it was great, but if it was written, very well put together. But the script was, you know, as good as it could be for a movie like this. Fantastic. All right, next up, I talk about the cast/the characters. Okay, I actually looked up on my phone about the character names, otherwise this is gonna get really, really freaking confusing. But Brody, who is damn it, I forgot his damn name again. Sorry, I forgot his name. Roy Scheider, Roy Scheider, who plays Brody, does a great job. He's got this real... I don't even know how to really describe his performance in this. It's commanding, but he's not trying to command the screen. He's the lead in this, but he doesn't really have the juiciest part. I thought Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw, their parts were kind of a lot more exciting and had a lot more to offer. Brody has a background to where he almost drowned when he was a kid, but it's very underplayed, but he's afraid of the water. And I thought that would come into play a lot more. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It does a little bit, not as much as I think it should have been, but that's okay. But you really believe that he's afraid of water. You believe his fear of this shark, his frustration with the mayor, with the town, with the people, to just stay out of the damn water, you're gonna get killed. But Roy Scheider was the perfect actor for the role of Brody. And as Brody's a character, I like how strong he is, how determined he is, and he's just trying to do the right thing because he's the sheriff of this town. He's just kind of the, I don't want to say, he's not cliche, but just like the normal, everyday kind of hero in a small town, but the character and the actor were great. And really, I mean, I'll go ahead and say like the supporting cast, the mayor, the dumbass mayor, the guy who played him played it very well. Brody's wife did a very good job. She would later come back, unfortunately for her. Hopefully she got well paid in at least one of the sequels, I think the fourth one. And no, I really don't feel like watching those because I'm not gonna buy those because fuck them. But the other two characters that really matter is Richard Dreyfuss as Hooper, and I love Richard Dreyfuss. I love him as an actor, and you know, he does a great job in this movie. Again, you believe that his love for sharks, his obsession with sharks. He's this rich kid who can buy all this fancy equipment, but he doesn't rub it in people's faces. He doesn't act like he acts a little pompous, but not enough to where it's annoying. And I thought that was kind of a good choice by Richard Dreyfuss. He could have chosen to be, once it was revealed that he was rich, to be kind of pompous and full of himself or whatever, but he's not. He's really there just to do the right thing. And I enjoyed the character of Hooper a lot, and I enjoyed Richard Dreyfuss's performance as him. I know he had a hell of a time on set, but I'm glad he did the movie because he was right for the part. And the guy who really steals the show is Robert Shaw as Quint. And he's the one who has that long dialogue on the boat where it starts off where they're having a good time, getting drunk, and then all of a sudden he goes off in the story about the USS Indianapolis. Indianapolis? I think that's right over there. About 20, 30 miles that way, but still. Probably closer to it than most of you are. But his character is, he's just a guy who enjoys the hunt, and I mean, there's not really much to him. He's just kind of crazy, but he's interesting. And you root for him, and he is trying to do the right thing, even though he's just a little bit on the insane side. But Robert Shaw's take, he was the perfect actor for this because it seemed like he had a lot in common with this crazy little individual, because Robert Shaw was kind of crazy and unfortunately alcoholic, and Quint, he's not an alcoholic, but it's kind of hinted at that and maybe they just wrote into the movie because of Robert Shaw's problems. But it's, again, a perfect marriage. I loved all three of these characters, and I enjoyed it in the second half of the movie when all three of them were together, when they would argue, when they would bicker, when they would get along, when they would work together to get the shark. They carry the movie. And the supporting cast is good, you know, a lot of kids, and they do okay, but it's these three main characters that carry the movie, and they did a fantastic job, character-wise and cast-wise. All right, last but not least, I'll talk about the direction, editing, and the music. I know Steven Spielberg had a hell of a time getting this movie made. It went like 100 days over. It was only supposed to take 55 days to shoot this, and it went over 100. Even really big budget movies nowadays never go over 100 days. This production was full of so much shit that it's amazing this movie came out as well as it did. It's honestly a miracle. If there are movie gods out there, they were looking on this movie because they knew what it could be. Steven Spielberg basically invented the summer blockbuster. There were big, you know, blockbuster type movies back then, but not $400-some million at the box office, especially on its very modest budget. And, you know, Steven Spielberg is really the guy who can be thanked for that. His direction in this, and his patience, and honestly his gusto, because he was a young filmmaker and he was determined. I think an older Steven Spielberg may not have taken the chances that a young Steven Spielberg took. I think even he admits that, because he shot this on the actual open waters, minus a few other scenes where they did it in pools, and it makes the movie look a lot more realistic. And I mean, obviously, because it's actually outdoors, it's not on a soundstage in a pool, it's actually in the damn ocean, and it's a good thing he did that. And also, he got the right performances out of the cast members, no matter how pissed off everybody was. The camera work he did, especially like just on the boats, I thought were honestly kind of revolutionary of how to shoot a film on water. I think he really, for future movies where if you had to shoot on a boat and if you were actually going to shoot on the sea or even in a lake or something, as weird and trivial as that sounds, I think he he showed how to do it properly and how you could get unique shots and the kind of shots to get and the kind of shots on the actors and the far away shots, the long shots, and everything else. I don't know why, but that really impressed me. But the direction in this was fantastic, and I mean, no other director could have made Jaws like Steven Spielberg. He was the perfect director, it was the perfect marriage, and it's a shame he did not get an Academy Award nomination for this. I know he was bummed about it because it got a Best Picture nomination. Frankly, he should have. Not just because it's Jaws, but because his direction in this, without it, Jaws would not have been even close to what it was. The direction, it's perfect. And the editing for this won an Academy Award, which I did not know until a second ago, and it's considered one of the greatest edited movies of all time. And thinking about it and watching it, the way that it flows in 2 hours, it really is nearly perfect, in my humble little opinion. I can understand why it's considered that, and especially since I think it's also considered that because of the big mess that this movie was in the cutting room. You know, it's just, some days they only got a couple shots and they weren't even usable. So the fact that the editor could make Jaws what it was, you know, Steven Spielberg's direction was the second most important. The editing was the first, by far, when honestly thinking about it, because it's a masterful. I'm sure they show it in film schools because, like, same as Raiders of the Lost Ark, the editing in this was just pitch perfect. The movie flowed so well. I was worried, especially the first hour, the movie was not going to flow very well because it was so much buildup. And I enjoyed that first hour. Not as much the second hour because it was more exciting. But the first hour, I still enjoyed a lot. And getting to know the characters and the way the scenes would go into each other, the way it was put together and pieced together. That editor definitely deserved that film editing Oscar by far. The editing, without it, this movie would have been complete and utter shit. The music, once again, is John freaking Williams, and he won his first, I believe, his first Academy Award for Jaws. Everybody knows. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Everybody knows the damn theme. The only thing I will say is that when they're out on the high seas and chasing the shark, I felt the music was a little too cheerful. It was like they were just boating, and I liked the music, it was fantastic. That theme was amazing, one of the greatest of all time. The whole music throughout the movie is fantastic. I personally didn't think that fit. That's really my only complaint, if I have one. And it's really a minor complaint because it does make it fun. Like, this is an adventure, so maybe it does fit. I thought it was a little out of place, quite frankly, but it's still fantastic music. And I put that probably fourth. It's editing, directing, acting, and then the music. These four things are what make Jaws Jaws, in that order. The music just added so much, especially during the really intense scenes with the shark, and with that music, when the shark is killing people, it kind of does, you know, tug at your stomach lining and make you nervous. So John Williams, once again, good God, man. Like, do you have any flaws? My final thoughts on Jaws is that it definitely lived up to the hype. I loved it, I loved it, I loved it, I loved it. Not so much to where this is gonna be a Steven Spielberg movie I'm gonna rewatch. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark, I wanted to rewatch after I watched it. Jaws, I'll put to the side, and I'll watch it maybe in a few months. And maybe next Halloween, I don't know. The movie did not scare me. I know it did to audiences back then. Not that the movie isn't, it definitely made me nervous when they were chasing the shark, and I personally thought the shark prop looked good. And thank God, most of the time you can't see the shark, and that does make it very suspenseful. And that was by mistakes, that the shark didn't really work on the set, so Steven had to, or Mr. Spielberg, had to change the way he directed it to not show the shark so much. And he said it kind of made it more of a Hitchcockian type thriller where you couldn't see the shark, and it just made it a lot more suspenseful, and he is absolutely 100% correct. This movie was blessed by the movie gods. But frankly, I thought the shark looked fine. I thought it looked really good, especially for 1974 when it was shot. I thought it looked very good and intimidating and big, but scary, not so much. It was actually scarier to not see the shark, but they kind of had to show it. But when I did see it, and when it ate people, it kind of was like, ugh, because that stuff does freak me out. But the movie isn't really scary. It's more of a thriller, in my opinion. It's like an adventure thriller. A big blockbuster thriller, you know, adventure movie. And it's pretty cool. It's almost like a brand new genre in a way. And I thoroughly enjoyed this movie from beginning to end. It really had me from the very beginning. I thought it would take me a little while to get into it, and no, I was into it from the start. Jaws lived up to the damn hype, and Steven Spielberg, it is one of your best movies. I know it was hell making it, but thank God you stuck it out and everyone else did and made this movie. He actually, a funny story before I get to the Just Joe rating, he said that he did not show up for the last shot because he was worried the crew would actually throw him in the water and hope that he would get eaten by sharks or something like that. So now, I think out of superstition, for every movie he directs, or has directed from that point, he never shows up for the last shot. And you know what? I think it works because he's made some of the greatest movies of all time. Raiders of the Lost Ark was one of them, and Jaws is one of them. Again, it's not a movie I enjoyed so much to where it's one of my new personal favorites, or one that I'll rewatch all the time, like Raiders is probably gonna be, but it's definitely one that I could see myself watching every year. And there's a shit ton of movies in my collection that I cannot say that for, even the classics. So for Jaws, I give a Just Joe rating of 4.5 out of 5. So thank you very much for tuning in to another edition of Too Many Movies with me, Just Joe. Tune in for new episodes every single Friday, where I watch a new movie from my collection. If you have any suggestions, watch the videos below, look through my collection, and pick a movie out for me to watch, and I would very greatly appreciate that. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Apartment B1 Productions. Subscribe to me on Instagram, Twitter, my Facebook page. All the links are in the description below. The podcast I'm sometimes on, my buddy Jake. And yeah, we're still in the middle of Spielberg Month. I got 2 more Spielberg movies to go. So far, it's 2 for 2, 2 phenomenal movies. Hopefully the next 2 are as well and that I enjoyed them. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Take care, bitches. Coffee. Quiet on the set.